Welcome back to this week's speaking tip. I've gotten a lot of questions that have been coming through to me on how to talk about what we would talk about controversial issues, let's say religious issues, hot topics, political issues, possibly social issues. Let's take like global warming or gun control or the racial issues that we are facing right now across the United States quite a bit, but also across other parts of the planet. How to talk about those things when you have audiences that are very divided in their viewpoint and their opinion on the subject you're going to talk about. Well, the simplicity in this is that you have to enter that conversation at some point that everybody can agree to. Now, as a speaker, if your whole position is to say mine is the right way and you're wrong if you don't agree with my viewpoint, you're not going to do very well on stage, let alone one-on-one communication, because nobody likes being made wrong. As a matter of fact, probably do a whole talk about the entire problem on planet Earth is that all the earthlings are running around making each other wrong for what they're doing. Thus, the basis of my world champion speech was, do you validate what's right, and we'd solve all the problems of the world. So let's look at that. If you're going to stand on stage and say, if you have this political viewpoint, you are wrong, you alienate your audience right there. Because even if they are wrong, they're going to double down on being right because you're trying to make them wrong. But if you can start with some higher level point of agreement. Now, years ago when I first started speaking, debating federal tax policy in the US. I did, well over 100 radio shows on talk radio. I spoke all over California. And I would always start out listing what a tax policy should be, how a tax system should work. It should be fair. It should cost as little for the citizenry to comply with it as possible. It should be easy to understand. It should reward savings and investment. It should penalize illegal activity. I would walk through basically this and everybody's going, yes, I agree with that. And then I would lay out specific facts on different types of systems and how they addressed the list I'd already put up there that we agreed on. Here's how this system works. Here's how this system works. So it was an educational step that I worked on with that. And I was very successful at getting people interested in the programs that the organization I spoke for was interested in, was promoting. For 7 years, I spoke internationally on human rights and specifically religious freedom issues. And I was not speaking on a specific religion. I was speaking on religious freedom for everybody. So I was representing all religions. But again, a lot of the organizations and countries and government officials that we were speaking to had policies that they were putting in that were discriminating or trying to fully outlaw religions, specific religions. And so we would talk about the importance of religious freedom in society and whether the person was in a religion that was 2,000 years old or 3,000 years old, or if they were in one that was 20 years old. The one that was 2,000 years old was 20 years old at one point. And look what different people have gone through throughout history and what happens when you take people's fundamental beliefs and try to invalidate them, and all the different aspects on human rights. So we would build an agreement on what we were trying to accomplish and then look at the individual issues. So the same thing can be true on a political issue, that you lay out sort of the fundamental agreement that we all would agree to on how we feel like a government or a political party or the actions of a government, what they should result in some capacity. And we lay that out. And then you can make your case. And again, if you have people that don't agree with you, respect the fact that they don't agree with you. Because I'm just going to go back to the one thing I said, nobody likes being made wrong. That is the surest way to get somebody to double down on their own rightness, is to try to tell them they're wrong. So I would just like you to consider this. And the other thing is that again, religious, political, even a lot of social issues, many times opinions outweigh facts. And this is one of the things that I've worked a lot on in my life on, is really trying to separate opinions from facts, because opinions may or may not be true. Facts are stubborn things. As there was an old saying in a restaurant I used to go to, it was carved up on the beam. It said, facts are stubborn things. And it's sort of hard. If you really have a fact, it's hard to refute that fact. But a lot of people take opinions as facts and try to forward opinions as facts. So what you want to try to do is stick with the facts in the case, and you'll be safe in that component. So just to summarize this, if you have a topic that is highly controversial, set a high bar on what we all could agree to, what we all feel is correct. As an example, let's say we're talking about global warming. You have people that are absolutely don't think it exists, and it's a complete farce, and it's a complete conspiracy. And you have other people that feel the planet is going down, the toilet, and we're not going to be here in 20 years, and we got to do something with draconian actions coming in. You could start off by saying, we all agree that we want a planet we can live on. We all agree that we want to be able to continue to sustain ourselves on planet Earth. That's not in question. What's in question is, do we have a crisis or don't we have a crisis, or what degree of a crisis do we have? And that's what I wanted to discuss with you today. And not only that, are there steps we can take, whether we don't even have a crisis, that we could make a more sustainable planet for us to live on? And we don't need a crisis to do it. And then you can look at your policies and say, okay, look, you don't believe the ice caps are melting. That's great. But, look, it's going to be better off if we cut our carbon components that are dumping into the atmosphere in some way. If we're not filling up all the holes on planet Earth with garbage or something like along that line, we can still take these actions, which would be beneficial. So that's how I approach it. And I hope that this gives you something to work with. Please give me some feedback if this was valuable to you, because this is a tough subject. And quite honestly, I've probably gone longer on this video message than I wanted to, but this is something I could talk about for probably an hour and a half, going into specific examples, breaking them down, giving you practical examples of about how I would go about addressing those audiences. But it is very possible. And as a great speaker, as a good speaker, as a speaker that wants to be out in the world making a difference, you're going to have to stand in front of people that don't agree with you and get their agreement on something. I'll see you guys next week.